guys, Elizabeth Quinn here again with Elizabeth's Scenes and Scents. Welcome back to my channel. Please don't forget to check out my website, which is waftingwonderfulwax.scentsy.us, where I am Liz Quinn, your Star Scentsy consultant. So today what I have for you is a Q&A style video and also just a chat about certain questions that I've been asked over the long haul with Scentsy, and also just as someone who loves to melt wax. So there are all sorts of things that people worry about. Where should I store it? How should I store it? How should I treat my warmers? What kinds of wax other than Scentsy perform in a Scentsy warmer? And so on and so forth. So we will just kind of go through all the things bit by bit as I come up with them. I've got all sorts of things on the table here to help me remember to talk about all the stuff. So first, and I think most important, is how do I store wax, and specifically Scentsy wax, to start this conversation. So I have heard, and I've certainly found from personal experience, that if you take a plastic tub that's going to seal and you put all of your beautiful wax into that tub and then you put it away, even in a place that's moderate in temperature, and you do not open those bins for a long time, you're going to come back and be shocked to find that your wax is ruined, because that closed environment really doesn't do favors for individual flavors of wax, so to speak, and everything just sort of homogenizes into one scent. Typically, it's whatever the strongest bar in the bin or bars is, so it could become very much a forest bar or a spice bar, and on and on and on. So that is something I thankfully had very little experience messing up my wax like that, and I heard from a lot of people early on in my wax journey, you just don't want to do that. So I was looking, even from the get-go, to store my wax, partly because I like things that are pretty and open and accessible, but in things that are not completely closed. But I also do not like to have my wax out in the open, so I like to store it in some sort of an armoire, or in the case of the piece that I will have a little video for you so you can kind of get a tour of my practical day-to-day wax stash. My little piece here that I like to film next to, this is basically a TV stand that I got from Target, and I've made it into a little armoire for my Florida room to be able to store the majority of my wax that I do not have in the basement. So the nuts and bolts are that that unit there is full of a whole bunch of these, which you'll see in the video at the end. And then because I do videos and because melting baskets are important to me to focus and not forget wax, especially as my collection just grows and grows and grows, I have a lot of this kind of thing all over the house. You see this a lot. This is, and I'll talk about this in the little add-on video, this is my melting basket on a monthly basis where I try to focus my attention on wax that's extremely seasonal and mostly pertinent to the weather and my mood and a holiday. Now in the basement, my long-term wax storage solution is a little bit different. I have an open shelf where I could dig up some pictures of it probably on my phone reel and stick some of that on Instagram when it's well curated. At the moment, I really need to spend a couple hours down there. It's 2 layers deep of bars that are laid down like this, because long-term storage of any wax, and most especially Scentsy, shouldn't be up and down because the oils can migrate to the bottom of the bar. Now, another thing you have to think about are if you've got bricks. Those you have to think even more carefully about because they tend to last forever. A bar, you might go through that in a couple years, unless you're me, and then I have bars that are way too old that I should be melting. But bricks, these guys, this is one from last year. These tend to just sit in anybody's home and just veg for a long, long time. So I've got some really old bricks. This was from before I was a consultant. This one has been pretty good. You can see there's no oil. There really isn't anything on the back. This is Crimson Berry Christmas from way back in the day. And for whatever reason, this one, even when I haven't always stored my bricks super well, because I'll tell on myself next, but this has stayed pretty good. Now, I have some wax from people who have been really sweet and they've mailed me things. I have no idea how other people stored these. I got a whole boatload from someone of caramel chestnut, and these guys are a disaster. I don't think they look like this when I got them. I'm not even going to tip this over. You can see what happened to this guy. He'll still melt just fine, but you have to be very careful with that. Now, one of two things happen to that brick. Either it's just the type of brick because of the oils. Specific oils can just get weird faster than others. And that bakery caramel chestnut thing, I have had trouble with that wax before. But more than likely, this was stored somewhere hot over a period of time. And then when it cooled down and it just sits there, it happens very, very slowly, but the oils were already pulled to the top because of the heat, and it just kind of stayed that way as an oil slick all over the brick. It could have been me. It could have been the people that mailed it to me. Like I said, I have no idea. I have a pile of those caramel chestnut bars. Some of them were my fault for leaving one summer when I was just being lazy, a whole stack of bricks out here in this room. This room is now fully insulated. A few years ago, it was not. And some of my bricks that I think have either turned or gone bad, I blame on myself because I was lazy that one summer and didn't move them back downstairs when the heat was on, and that is not a good idea. Now, of all the wax that I've had over the last decade, the only things where I can say I truly ruined them because of neglect were a few bricks that I forgot to put in the basement at the appropriate time. So that leads me back to temperature for storage. You don't want to store your wax in the sun. You don't want to store your wax where there are high heat fluctuations, especially hot. Cold doesn't hurt it as much, but extreme heat certainly does. And it would get really, really hot out here, especially if we close the Florida room doors, because all this glass and then it being enclosed, it would be miserable out here some summer days. And I really should have moved those bricks, but I'm just kind of dealing with this responsibility issue right now. It's I guess my therapy session will have some tea. Anyway, so I have the shelf downstairs where all of my bars are grouped seasonally and they're too deep. Then I have, as I showed you the little wooden box, I have larger boxes that are down there for a lot of things that come in from my club shipments. And then I have the thing that started it all that I used to call my candle cupboard. And if you want to go way back on my channel, you will see this beautiful bar type piece that my parents gave me, where I used to put my candles in there years and years ago before I did anything with wax melts. And then it became a Scentsy cabinet. My girls loved to shop it when they were little. They'd go in and they'd actually blindfold me, take out the candles and the wax and see if I could guess. At this point, I have so much wax, it's much harder to get it right, but I still do a pretty good job. Not that they're really doing that anymore, but they used to play that with me. What's mom smelling? So I'm getting all over the place here, but I've got that wooden bar that has a lot of things in it still. I have the big wooden boxes that are similar to the one I showed you. I have a lot of these little plastic but open topped and slatted. See how these are breathable, breathable, breathable. Little bins that are in my unit over here that I use upstairs. And I used to have that giant red cabinet, and I treated the bottom of that the same as I do my little piece that's next to me here today. So my sum up on how to store wax in a cool place, in things that breathe. I prefer natural materials, keep your bars laid flat, and then if it's not Scentsy, here's where I think I'm different than other people because I like the circulation of air around my wax. So something like this, which is Second and Spruce, or something like this, which is Teddy Bees, I don't double bag anything. I never have. And I have had vendor wax now for about 3 years. I have no problems because that circulation of air, now you want to make sure that each one is individually bagged well and that you don't leave them open. There's that. But the circulation, at least in my home, and I keep almost all of this in the basement, in those open and breathable environments, nothing ever spills into or corrupts another scent. And this is very, very different advice than most hardcore vendor wax people who double bag almost everything. And if it's coffee, they like stick the thing in the corner in timeout. But I've had absolutely no trouble of any kind with any of it as long as I store it authentically the way that I do all of my Scentsy wax. So then the storage of the wax leads me to the storage and care of warmers. So some people really like to keep their boxes. I'm not an organized person. You guys are never allowed to see the basement storage area, which looks like Home Goods exploded. But I've got at least 60 Scentsy warmers down there. I know, it's terrible. And the minis, we're not even adding those. But long-term storage of warmers. The biggest thing is just that you don't break them, that they're on shelving or in your boxes if you are able to be that meticulous, and that they are, not dropped and not rubbing against each other and you don't have all your cords tangled and all that. So I have a couple of older warmers to show you. Here is, what was this one called? It might just have been called the Mosaic Pumpkin. This is one of the oldest ones. My mother-in-law bought this for me the fall that I became a consultant, and I've kept it in good shape. Make sure you keep all the pieces together, because sometimes things like to wander. Having a lost dish is very stressful, I'll tell you that, especially when you've got as many warmers as I do. So regular dishes like this, you can scrub these with soap and water. Now I have to say that there is, if you really want to go with the warranty, there's a funny warranty issue with Scentsy warmers, that you're not supposed to use anybody else's wax. You heard that from me. It is the truth. Now, I've never tried to exchange an entire warmer based on a warranty issue, but if it's electrical, I think that that's different. But it voids the warranty if you use other wax in the dish, so just know that. But I have these, the clear ones. They scrub well with soap and water. Now, some people like to use things like Counter Clean. I don't know. I think that it's important not to be overly abrasive with your dishes, especially the kind I'm going to show you next. But soap and water, no problem, cleans up really nice. Most of the time, it's just hot water and a rag, and all of the excess of your residue will come right out. And this one obviously hasn't been exposed to vendor wax with glitter, because that is another thing we're going to talk about. So keep them in a place where they're just safe. They're just physically safe. And if you're a box girl, I applaud you. I just can't deal with that. Now, some older warmers that have a special kind of dish, like this guy here. This is the Ode to Opulence, one of my favorite warmers. This, again, was from before I was even a consultant, so this is something I may have had for, going on, could be as old as 10 years old. I don't think so, but close. Now, see this dish? This guy has some issues. And there are a lot of dishes that you can get that have this coating on them. Here's a newer one. This is for the Fall Sweet Fall that's even currently available in our Harvest collection. So how did this dish get like this? Part of it is just wear and tear. Part of it is that when I started with Scentsy, I really didn't think all that much about the fact that this is just a coating. I was thinking it was purple glass, but it's not. The dishes that look like this are mostly clear, and they're dipped in something. So you have to take some extra care or get a second dish, which is what you can see with the Fall Sweet Fall, and I do have a new dish for the Ode to Opulence here. Another thing that may have caused some of this wear and tear is that I'm typically a wax changer with the popping it out cold method. So here's another dish. Now this kind of dish, these guys, there's only one thing that you can do to them to ruin them besides drop them. But most of the time with a plain clear glass dish, I have no issues using the cold wax change method. You're just gonna go in here. This one's still just a little bit warm. And you're literally just gonna lift your wax out with the tip of your knife. But there are some styles of warmer, such as like this little guy here, this mini that's made out of glass, where a couple times I have poked a hole in a warmer using too sharp tipped of a knife or just being sloppy. So over the years, even though it's more money, I have gone to using either cheap cotton balls from Target or our cotton cleanups. And what do you use these little bags for? I usually use it for stuff like this. So there's dealing with the warmer dishes, and really you're just going to have, with somebody like the Ode to Opulence, you're going to have the possibility of this. So if you're a perfectionist, just get a second dish and put it away. The other reason to get a second dish with the colored ones or the strangely shaped ones is that they only carry back stock on dishes for a certain number of years. I have a beautiful warmer that is orange with the leaf on the side, and I don't remember the name of it. It's like the Autumn Glow or the Golden Glow or the Golden Leaves. I don't even know. I haven't asked Scentsy support, but I don't even know if I can get the replacement dish that's like this, but it's orange for that specific warmer. I should probably call and see, because they try to stock things, but they don't stock things back, 15, 20 years now with some of those unusual dishes. So be careful to change your coated dishes gently with the wax and the cleaning. Get a second dish if it's a strange warmer or if it's a limited edition warmer, just in case you break it or you do something to it like what you can see here. But this is primarily wear and tear on this guy. Okay, so we talked about dishes. We talked about the actual warmers. Now the light bulbs is just common sense. Keep them in their little boxes. Don't let them be exposed. The colored bulbs, which is really an interesting thing, over time, the color on the top tends to fade. So if you are really into colored bulbs, you're just gonna have to buy new ones. They're reasonably cheap and they come in 3-packs now. And pretty much I only use the orange. I don't like the other colors. Occasionally I'll use a red or green bulb, but mostly the orange ones for me, because I like that glow in the fall. Now another thing with the warmers, and this doesn't tend to happen with a thicker dish, this porcelain, but if you have a thinner porcelain warmer, either a mini or a full size, I do find that it's not as good with the wear and tear in here. So what can happen is that if you use a knife or some other thing, you can scrape the coating on this, and all of a sudden on the inside you're bleeding wax, and then it'll come out the bottom. This literally happened to the other one of these that I had. This is my new one. I threw the other one away. I don't like that when it comes to quality, because older warmers, such as the little pumpkin spice cup mini that I have over on the wall, I didn't pull that one out, that one's thicker, and even though it is a shiny sealed porcelain just like the Sunflower mini, I have no problem with that. It was made more robustly. So just if you have a lightweight porcelain warmer that's on the newer side, be very careful with that because they're temperamental. I already told you about the fact that the glass minis, you can puncture that just because it's more delicate. And I think that that's pretty much everything with the warmers. Now, cords. We do sell a couple types of cord concealing stands. I think at the moment we've only got the tin stand and the birch stand. This is one that I'm going to show you that I'm just not using it, but this is not available anymore. This is one of the stands that we used to have, that I still have, that is a cord concealing warmer stand. So you're going to take your warmer, and if you don't want to have your cord tangled, you're going to put it in here. And it's actually very helpful. The pedestal is nice, and it's nice to be able to lock in your cord, and you're going to wind that around however much you need it, and then be able to put, well, we got most of it. Put this guy on here, and it will help you with cord tangling issues in kitchens or other places where you don't want little kids and pets and stuff to snag it and take your warmer down off of a nice safe perch. So that's most of the practical stuff. Now, when it comes to performance with wax, everything I'm going to tell you is subject to opinion. We'll start with Scentsy. Most of your warmer dishes are going to say 4 cubes. Some will be less because the warmer is smaller. I don't even know if there are any that say 5 or 6 cubes is possible. The original classic curve is gigantic, and that can hold like 6 cubes of wax. It's crazy. But when you're talking about your average Scentsy bar, so here's one that's called Midnight Mahogany. This is now not available anymore, and I don't have it in my club. I just have a few. 2 to 4 cubes of wax should average, in an average setting with an average bar, give you good throw in one warmer. Now, if you have a super strong scent, like this guy is very, very strong, and this guy's crazy strong. If it was a bar, I would say 1 or 2 cubes. Now with bricks, you have to chop them. So with one of these, I would use like half or a third of a brick cube because that one's crazy, crazy strong. And with some scents, they're just super soft. So you need to use, I'd say 4 cubes, maybe Tahitian Black Orchid is famous for being a terrible throw. So 4 cubes at least. Now, I don't think if you go beyond 4 cubes that you're getting better performance for the amount of wax. I'd say anywhere between 2 and 4, that's good because it works well in the dish. If you get over your 4 cube amount, number 1, you're going to have a waxident, and number 2, it's not efficiently going to heat the wax well. I typically only use 2 cubes in each warmer, sometimes 3 depending on if I want to use up a bar or whatever, but only on occasion do I use 4 cubes. So that's all that. Now, one of the things that people have asked me, and I am a Scentsy consultant, so take this with a grain of salt, how does Scentsy, as far as the warmers, work for non-Scentsy wax? So that depends on the vendor or the company. I find that Yankee, and I do love their little melts. These are great. You can get these mostly at grocery stores, or you can get them online. This is a discontinued scent from last year. I find that Yankee's formula that looks like this, not their really old little parts, those are kind of temperamental, but these guys, 1 to 2 cubes or plugs or whatever you want to call it in a typical Scentsy warmer. Throws just like Scentsy. It works very, very well. It's a little bit harder to get out of the dish, so just be careful. So if you have wax other than Scentsy, what I find to be the safest way to get it out is to go run the hottest water in your sink, run the hot water just on the bottom side of the dish, and then use a knife to pop it out, or change all of your wax warm and then you don't have any issues. You just use cotton balls and it's all good. And some people literally dump their dishes and then wipe them. I'm not coordinated enough to do that safely, trust me. So then another company where this lady has got the stickiest wax. This is Second & Spruce, but man, does her wax throw. I don't think it matters what warmer you use for Second & Spruce. This stuff is just a beast. But you use a little bit of that, and it goes a tremendously long way. And then hers is kind of hard to get out of the dish, so I do the change it cold and run the water on the bottom method. Then the notorious Teddy Bees. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to give you a satisfactory answer. My home is the other factor. Your home, for anyone, is the other factor in performance with wax. I have a ranch. I do not have those staircases and extra high ceilings where you have all the drafts that suck all of your scent up to the bedroom level. I have semi-enclosed rooms. In my basement, all that scent will draft up into my kitchen, so I totally understand how that works. In my case, it's a bonus because it's great in my basement where there's a big den, relatively speaking, and it's just nice in my kitchen area. But if you wrestle with getting even regular Scentsy wax, or if you have familiarity with Yankee, if those don't work already and you have to be very picky and choosy about which scents from those companies you pick, I would not recommend Teddy Bees. Now, I love it. You guys see, I really enjoy using her wax, but I have a small enough home. I have tons of warmers, so we'll get into how many warmers per room next. And I'm looking for a medium throw. I'm not looking for my wax to be able to be smelled by the neighbors and the expressway, although my expressway is awfully close. You can see it in the background. So your expectation level with her wax has to be that you let it cure for a period of time. I think it's debatable. Some scents you can just do right away. Others definitely are better after a year. So she's kind of the one where, do you want a complex boutique scent? If the answer is yes, and you're willing to baby things, you're willing to use a lot of warmers if they're going to be Scentsy warmers. We'll get to a type of warmer that supposedly, I don't own them, supposedly is the warmer for vendor wax, period. But if you're willing to put a little bit of her wax in all the warmers, and you're willing to get that medium throw, now some of her wax, it just booms. Like Pacific Northwest Winter is crazy, crazy strong. Anything tree, there's one called Tree Farm. The North, like those have those resinous piney notes that even Gregory loves those. Or some of the ones that have a lot of wood, those stronger base notes in any wax, that's probably gonna up your performance factor. But the softer things, the perfumey things, the bakery things, those may struggle more. And so there's a type of warmer called a Julienne hot plate. Don't own any because I am a Scentsy consultant and mine do just fine with Teddy Bees wax for the performance I'm looking for in my smaller home. But that's a whole thing. So you can go talk to other people, especially people that are passionate about their vendor wax, and get more ideas from them. But I find adequate performance with my Teddy Bees for my spaces. Now, compared to Scentsy or Yankee, the Scentsy and the Yankee are stronger most of the time. But again, it depends on the scent. And for whatever reason, Second & Spruce is like the strongest of the strong. You can use a dime-sized piece of anything that she makes and you can smell it out by the expressway. So mileage varies. Now, the last thing is, how many warmers are we going to put in a space? A lot of you follow me on Instagram. You see that I have these, I don't even know what the sizes are. I think my husband would say this Florida room's like either 12 by 12 or maybe 14 by 14. It's not huge. I will use 2 full-size warmers and a mini in the wall in this space and be very, very happy. I can use 1 full-size and a mini or just the 2 full-size, but I like all 3 because I do have a lot of airflow and a lot of doors opening and closing in this room. Then in my dining room, I usually have a mini and a full-size, and sometimes I also will tuck a small full-size because now, I mean, we make little ones, medium-sized ones, big ones. I'll put that in the corner behind, it's kind of tucked into a little alcove behind one of my French doors. Into the kitchen, I usually keep an element warmer on top of the fridge. and I'll have a mini warmer and a full-size warmer up on my counter. Front room, now my front room is one of the larger rooms in this space, but because of my dogs and traffic, I don't dare put minis down at the baseboards in that room because the dogs are always barking and spitting on the windows when FedEx comes, and there's just too much going on. So I will use maybe 2 full-size in that front room, and it does an adequate job. In bedrooms, just 1 warmer, and my basement is quite large for the size of my house. So I have 1 mini in the in the laundry room that's just up between the washer and dryer and a plug. And then I have 1, 2, 3 full-size warmers usually in my large space down there where there's a fireplace and the television and a desk and some storage and all that sort of thing. It's like a big rectangular cozy space. So I hope that that helps. I think if you had a really large home that has the double height for the challenges of that you're going to want 3 or 4 full-size warmers in an open concept area that might include like your sitting room and your dining room. And if you're going to add a kitchen, I'd say 6 full-size warmers if you either have a ranch with cathedral ceilings or you've got the double height rooms that have the big staircase that goes upstairs. You're going to need to use your fans. You're going to need to really think about the arrangement of your warmers, look for drafts and where the air is either going in, out, up, or down in ways that might adversely affect your wax. Honestly, it seems like a lot of work just to enjoy your Scentsy, but it's important to know how your home behaves. For me, that little space behind my French door on the one side, if I have a really cranky scent that I cannot smell, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I put a warmer over there and I kind of close the door in front of it, I can go and test a scent for you guys and I'll be able to trap the scent there. I don't know why that works. It just really does. And in my basement, so many smells that don't do as well upstairs, but they're good scents, like there may be a medium at strongest and I really want to know what they're about. I'll put those in the basement and they do beautifully. So know your space, know what influences your air quality and conditions, know about your fans and your circulation and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope I got all of the questions that you guys have been asking repeatedly answered. So 2 cubes of Scentsy wax in an average dish, I would say 2 full-size warmers at minimum in any medium to large size space, 1 full-size warmer in any small to medium space just at minimum. And I love how you can tuck the minis into the baseboards and other places and even put it on like the little stands that you can get for them. And those can even go in places where you don't see them, but they're adding scent. And you can do that with your element warmers too, that you don't really have to babysit those that much. We just retired the diamond milk glass. I keep that on top of my fridge. Nobody sees it. And it's always there if I feel like I need to amp up the scent or I want to layer smells. And gosh, this video could go for forever. One more thing, just because I seem to be the queen of pairing smells. When you're looking at how to create a scent scheme for your home for, say, a day or a couple of days, look for scents that have similar notes that will complement each other. The other day, I was watching another friend who's really into vendor wax, and it was funny because I had just melted Fall Feelin' and Hayrides, and she had just melted Fall Feelin' and Golden Garland. Those are very similar, the Golden Garland and the Hayrides. And you've got the woodsy, funky notes in Fall Feelin', and then you have the slightly more golden autumnal notes in either Hayrides, which is new, or Golden Garland, which is retired. And you can either do rooms that are adjacent, where you put one scent in one room and then the other scent in the other room, or if you really want to mix it without literally mixing the smells, every other warmer, that's what we call alternate warmer mixing. You put that all throughout your spaces and it just swirls in the air together. And then if you really want to know what Fall Feelin' and Golden Garland are like together, 1 cube to 1 cube, you stick that in a warmer, and we call that a direct mix. So I hope I've also demystified for some of you that might be newer to all this wax stuff, some of our funny terms and all that. So enjoy your wax melting. Make sure that you put your storage as a priority. Do it well. Don't seal your bars. That is the kiss of death for them. Make sure that they can breathe. Make sure that they are treated well so that they will love you back when you put the beautiful wax in the warmer for days and years to come. And I don't think there's anything else I need to share. Shelf life of wax, citrus will go bad fast, and there are just certain fruity scents that maybe can go off a little bit. And I do sometimes find that mint gets funky on me, which is really weird, but yeah, I'm now rambling. But I think I got everything answered. If there's another pertinent question, please put it down in the comments below, and if there's enough of that, maybe I'll do a part 2, but have a great day, guys. Enjoy your wax, and in this case, my tea. God bless. And now we'll cut to the practical little video of showing you how my storage operates in this room and what my thought process is for setting up to melt wax successfully and to film videos. Have a great day, guys. God bless. Bye-bye. The questions about storage and care of wax is something in the wax community that we kind of forget to talk about, but a lot of people, I think, have it on the back of their mind. As I have already shared with you guys in this video up close and personal, I like to do things in bins or wooden containers, or if I'm going to use plastic, I will have that inside of things that are breathable, that are not going to be completely enclosed. All of my Scentsy bars are usually stored flat if they're in the basement, but these are more on deck up here. I have a lot of different sections for different colors, themes, scents, and I have them stored more according to scent category and color than anything else, which is a little bit counterintuitive to some, but that's just what I do. And then over here, I have the payload of the most things for fall winter that I've curated from my basement. And almost all of this is going to get used in the next 3 to 4 months. I go through so much wax. So everything, again, as I said, is kind of in order of scents that are similar, scents that are the same color, and then I do have some vendor wax stored in this particular space. But if I'm going to further sort and curate my wax, over here are things that are extremely seasonal. This one on top, if you guys watch my channel, is my little basket that's typically a melting basket, but this month this is overflow. Because this one, which isn't typical, this one's my main melting basket. So we are going through all sorts of wax. And then in these guys, I have wax that's on deck for yet another video that I am waiting to do until a few days from now. So I have for the top 10, and really it's a dozen in here, for fall, these are the retired bars that I'm going to talk about. And these are the current bars that are in the catalog. So this storage system is more to help me be ready for videos if I haven't had time to be able to sort things the day that I want to film, and it just kind of gives me a leg up. So as I said, I never store my wax in plastic that seals into itself, because to me, that is just a recipe for kind of making a bad homogeneous, if everything is in with a cinnamon bar, all the other things are going to smell like cinnamon, or if everything is in with a laundry bar, everything else is going to smell like laundry. And for long-term storage, I know it's really not a good idea to have these guys upright, but I go through so much wax that when I sort this basically fall, winter, spring, summer, and then I tweak it a little bit towards Christmas or towards transitions, this is a very good storage solution, and it's rather pretty looking, and I don't really like to have mess when it comes to my wax, even though there are other areas of my home that are totally out of control. So I hope that this is helpful and that this goes with the more personal Q&A that I did first. Have a great day, guys. God bless. Bye-bye.